And there we go, we finally have reached the end of the Hella Mega reviews. Like all these long series that I do, I never expected it to take quite as long as it did to make, and it doesn't help that Weezer decided to drop an extra album while I was working on the series, making my plans change massively. But we've finally made it. Let's look at the heavily delayed, long-awaited Van Weezer. Van Weezer began development in 2018 with Rivers Cuomo wanting to return to hard rock as he found that their audiences would go crazy whenever they shredded or played any heavier songs. Almost like that was what attracted people to the band in the first place. Inspired by Kiss, Black Sabbath, Metallica and Van Halen, the band intentionally wanted to make like a 70s, 80s hard rock arena rock record that they felt would fill out large stadiums. The album was announced alongside the first single, The End of the Game, on September 10th, 2019 when the Hella Mega Tour was originally announced. Pretty crazy that it's only a few months away from it being 2 years since that announcement and not a single show has been played yet. The album was delayed just over a week before its initial release due to the pandemic, and a few months later would be given a new release date of May 2021 to coincide with the new Hella Mega Tour dates, which of course didn't end up happening. The album finally came out about a month ago and has received generally favourable reviews, to which I say, how? This album kinda sucks. On the one hand, it's nice to see the band going back to their hard rock roots and bring back much of what made Maladroit such a great record, but so much of the album sounds like the band are completely phoning it in and have no interest in what they're making whatsoever. Musically, the album is filled with grandiose, loud and heavily distorted guitar riffs and solos, but none of it really manages to cover up the shallowness of the songs. I Need Some of That musically sounds like something from Everything Will Be Alright in the End, but if the band were barely awake. Rivers' lyrics and vocal delivery is so tired and forgettable. Lyrically, it probably could have been written in 5 minutes and does nothing new that we've not heard from the band a million times. In fact, it wouldn't even surprise me if they just threw every lyric to all their songs into like a database and used like an AI to write a song for them, because it's just so cliched and boring. One More Hit shows the band blending an almost Metallica-esque riff with this really dull, slow-moving rhythm section and lyrics about a drug addiction that is so painfully on the nose. The pre-chorus features Rivers singing Please Daddy in one of the cringiest moments on the album, and to make things worse, the chorus is super bland and forgettable. Sheila Can Do It and She Needs Me are similarly dull. In fact, they're pretty much the exact same songs, and they'd add literally nothing to the album at all. They're not abhorrently bad, they're not good, they're just there. Blue Dream is one of the most embarrassing songs on the album, taking the riff from Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train and creating a new song with it that has lyrics that sound like they're from a bad Ringo Starr Beatles song. The first verse is all about swimming around the oceans and the fishes being his friend, and then like an octopus appears and says hi to him by giving him 8 salutes. It's hilariously bad. All the Good Ones shows the band just making a straight pop punk song that would be at home on like an all-time low album or something. It's not terrible, but it's so forgettable and average. I've heard a million songs out there just like this, almost all of which are far better. But the album isn't completely garbage. In fact, I really like 3 of the 4 singles released from it. Hero encapsulates what the band were trying to go for with the album really well, with these nostalgic lyrics and an incredibly catchy and fun chorus. The band actually sound passionate about this song, which is something I can't say about most of the album. The End of the Game shows the band's Van Halen influence perfectly, with the hugest riffs on the album combined with some of the best guitar work on any song by the band. The melodies are incredibly catchy, the lyrics are at times pretty tongue-in-cheek and humorous, and the instrumentation is great. You can really hear the Eddie Van Halen influence in the guitar work, especially with like the double tapped intro and the palm muted main riff, which has like a bend. It's all very Van Halen sounding. Beginning of the End is very similar, with its apocalyptic lyrics lyrics, huge glam rock-esque sounds, and super catchy chorus that sounds like it could have come directly from the Blue album. Considering how short this album is, I was really hoping that the band would deliver something fast and to the point, but instead they just sound worn out. The album really feels like they had a few songs that they loved and were passionate about and then quickly shat out the rest of the album. It's not one of the band's worst albums, and even at its worst, I don't think there's any song on here that is straight up terrible, but it sounds so rushed and lazy, which is such a shame considering just how good the singles were and just how good OK Human turned out to be. And yeah, I know this is like the last video of this series, so surely I should be going super in depth into this album and talking about it loads more, but there's really like nothing to talk about. This album gives you nothing. It's just so nothing. In terms of the band's future, supposedly they're working on a 4-album project called Seasons, where each album would be released over a year on the first day of its relevant season. And although I don't think it's a terrible idea for a project, I do think Weezer aren't the band to do something like this. They've proved time and time again that they favour quantity over quality, and they've also proved time and time again that they work better when they do the opposite. Like, if they spend a long time working on an album, the album ends up being good, but if they crank it out in just under a year, those albums suck. I would much rather get a great new Weezer album every 5 years than get 4 in 1 year, most of which probably won't be very good. And I know pretty much all the fans would agree with that as well. And that brings us to the end of Weezer's discography, one of the most inconsistent discographies in music history. Thanks for sticking these hella mega reviews out to the end. I do apologize again that they took so long to make. I've decided I'm unlikely to do another discography review like this because they just take way too long to make and take up time that I'd rather spend doing other stuff. However, I do have a podcast called Deep Diving, which was previously weekly and is now probably going to be monthly, in which me and sometimes a guest host review every album by a musician as well as discuss the history of the band, similar to what we did in the Hella Mega videos and also the Foo Fighters reviews that I did in podcast form with less editing. And also we play a song from the album because it's a Spotify exclusive thing where you can have a podcast and put full-length songs in there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.